I want to talk with you about the biggest opportunity of our lifetimes financially to make a fortune by investing on the future. Because the way I look at it right now, my opinion, what I'm seeing at the moment is that this decade is probably going to be one of the most insane decades ever in terms of being an investor in these markets and making crazy amounts of freaking money as an investor in these markets. There are so many different sectors that have this potential technologically to revolutionize the world that we're in right now. And for investors who are getting in there to make huge amounts of money. This is AI, this is crypto, this is electronic vehicles, this robotics, as well as other technologies which you can't really invest in per se, but do have massive impact potential on how they're going to affect and change society, like CBDCs, as an example, and many others that are coming. Serious disruption to our way of life is coming. Economies are going to be reshaped dramatically in a way more dramatic than we've seen at all in our lifetimes thus far. And look, if you're a millennial like me, you've seen wild change. Wild change. Now, if you're like 18 or 19 and you're watching this, shout out to the 19-year-olds watching the broadcast. You guys are switched in and well ahead of your peers. I will tell you that right now. So if you're investing in this space, slay it, guys. Slay it. Make that cheddar. Now, the thing is, you've grown up in a world where we have the internet, for example, and we have social media and all this stuff. Me back in the 90s, dial-up internet, man. I remember my first internet connection was web TV. Shout out to anybody who remembers what the hell web TV is, where you plugged an internet box into your television and you had like green text on the screen, and it was pretty low tech. But it worked. It worked. It worked. It was a good time. I was wheeling and dealing Star Wars and Magic cards when I was like 13, 14. It's a great time. But that was the internet back then. Somebody could be on the internet, but you couldn't use the phone at the same time because you're using the phone line, the land line, the thing connected into the wall. I feel like a grandpa here talking about this stuff. Geez. Well, we've gone from that to supercomputers in your pocket, aka mobile phones. We have artificial intelligence technology that's already here and operational that is crazier than anything a lot of us could have imagined 10, 15 years ago. Payments, I mean, crypto's less than 15 years old. And Bitcoin, of course, just being the first one. Ethereum's 7 years old, something like that. It's really only been highly functional and operational and useful for 4 or 5 years. We're still really early on this technology. And much in the same, if you went back to the 90s and you were heavily investing into, Amazon and Apple and whatever other early technologies were coming out back then. And of course, a lot of them went to zero, as we see with the altcoin space. A lot of them will go to zero. But some of those early investments went on to make unbelievable gains for investors over a 20-year period. But here's the difference, is that the technology curve, the adoption curve of technology is moving so much faster. 20 years ago, things moved a lot slower because we didn't have the advantage of the last 20 years that have happened, the 2000s, where all this technology has spread, where everybody's got the internet in their pockets now, where everybody has this massive connectivity across social media, across financial apps, the ability to send money, receive money, to buy things, to spread messages and all this stuff instantaneously around the world. It's a very powerful thing. And it means that the technology that is coming forward for the next, 7 years of this particular decade that we're in, the 2030s, I think will be a very watershed moment for our society. The 2030s, when they happen, will be the rollout of this technology across the world will be massive. The time to be an investor is like now, and it's very exciting. And of course, there's always going to be fun, exciting stuff to invest in. And there's always going to be money to be made and all this stuff. But I think technologically, this is an incredibly exciting time to be living in the world, because much in the same way that we go back again to my analogy from my story from the 90s, where I was a young kid growing up, and then it was like the dark ages one day, and then we got the freaking internet, man, and everything changed. Everything changed. The way I thought about the world, my connectivity to the world, I had friends on chat groups in Finland and Sweden, and it was crazy. That kind of mass awakening moment technologically is here with artificial intelligence and crypto and a few other things. And those investment potentials can be pretty damn big, if you ask me anyway. So, for example, let's talk a little about AI, just a few of the big ones. Here. So, Price Waterhouse Cooper, so they say global artificial intelligence in their study. So they say this could be a $15.7 trillion potential contribution to the global economy by 2030, up to a 26% boost in GDP for local economies from AI by 2030. 300 plus use cases identified and rated are captured in their AI Impact Index. Yo, that's big. That's big. That's a lot of money. 26% GDP boost from just AI. So that means the companies, the tech stocks, or even some of the crypto coins, there's quite a few crypto coins, some AI crypto coins that are actually doing things. You know, we have Render, which is a decentralized computing network. We have some other bigger AI players out there, whether it be Fetch or Singularity, and like they're actually doing stuff. Now, I can't comment on the token price or tokenomics or any of that stuff, but these are companies that are actually doing things. So they are potential players if you want to go crypto route to getting AI exposure. If you want to go the equity route to getting AI exposure, there's probably a lot more opportunities there to invest in more salient, real technology and companies. But I think we're going to see an AI bubble where we have a lot of crap companies. AI.com, the company, it'll be like the pets.com. They won't really do anything, and then they're going to go bust. We'll have lots of that kind of stuff. But we're also going to have the next Amazons and all these kind of things that are going to take off and be the next big players. Companies that may not have even been launched yet. They're going to be launched over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But AI is going to be massive, and it's a massive opportunity for early investors to get in on. And this is interesting. So this coming from an article over here on LinkedIn said a joint report published by Dell and the Institute of the Future states that 85% of all jobs that will exist in 2030 have not been invented yet. That's insane. And this, I think, comes back to one of our core fears about AI is that it's going to take AI is going to take my job. Or take our job. Took my job. Took my job. Yeah, AI is going to take a lot of people's jobs. A lot of people's jobs. However, it's going to take away boring, mundane jobs that people probably hate doing anyway, and allow people to do more interesting jobs, different jobs, maybe live more of their real life passions versus digging ditches or flipping burgers at McDonald's or some other stuff. It's going to be a bit of a learning process for everybody as people need to reskill for the new economy. And by the time you're done reskilling, technology might have already replaced your skill. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be a crazy period as well, which is why investing in this space becomes so exciting because you don't have to worry about necessarily retraining yourself for a new job. You can just invest in the companies that are going to take everyone's jobs. That's one way to do it. Which takes me on to talking about electric vehicles. So EVs can make up more than a third of the global car sales by 2030. That estimate, by the way, is based on current realities of legislation. So this envisages that in China, we're going to see 62% of car sales in 2030 be electric. In Europe, 58%. In the USA, 50%. Worldwide average will be 35% at the time. India, 15%. And the rest of the world will be 10%. So it's pretty interesting numbers. Now, some countries, for example, they have already legislated for electric vehicles that by 2025 or 2030, only electric vehicles will be sold in our geographies. So you have some of that, right? Not everywhere. We might see more announcements over the next 4 or 5 years, and that makes it even a bigger potential for the electric vehicle market. And electric vehicles are very exciting. I own an EV. I love my EV. I got a Tesla. Absolutely great car. Love it. Love it. Absolutely. But what's even more interesting about electric vehicles, I mean, yeah, they're nice and clean, of course, depending on where you source your initial electricity from. This is one of those weird conversations where you're like, yeah, okay, I've got an electric vehicle, but we're powering it with a coal-powered power plant. Slightly problematic. See, where I live, we actually have the city almost exclusively powered by wind and hydro energy. So it's actually a great thing to have an EV because it's no emissions coming out of the car, no emissions from electricity. Yeah, okay, I know you still need some kind of stuff to create anything. You gotta dig the steel out of the ground to make whatever. I get it. You can't create anything without destroying something else. I understand this. But think from the EV perspective, all these EVs on the road, Tesla's self-driving technology is only getting better. You can now use Tesla self-driving technology to be able to drive in the cities. And if you have Tesla self-driving technology for city driving, that opens up the potential for every Tesla or every car using Tesla's self-driving software. And I see that a major car company just announced that they're going to be integrating that recently. That allows for everybody's car to become a robo taxi. That's a big implication. We're talking about changing of our cities. Our city's infrastructure can change. Suddenly, your car can just drive back home. Doesn't need to park somewhere where it's going to be charged $100 or $50 or whatever it's going to be to park your car for the day. Just go back home. Our cities are going to change. The way we make money is going to change. And yeah, we're going to need to do a lot of things in order to get to the stage. We got to upgrade our grids and bring in more energy and probably going to need a lot more nuclear energy, all this stuff. These are all problems to be solved. We are a pretty clever species. If you haven't noticed by now, we will solve some of these problems. And perhaps one of the biggest revolutions that is going to take a lot of this is I gotta take our jobs. I got my job. I got my job. It's all getting a pile of dudes, guys. All right. Seriously though, one of the things that's really, really going to take people's jobs is going to be the advent of self-driving semi-trucks. Huge implication for electric vehicles and self-driving technology, because you're not going to need to have truck drivers anymore who can only legally drive 10 or 12 hours a day. You can have a self-driving truck that can drive 24 hours a day. Suddenly you don't need to pay a driver $50,000 to $100,000 a year. I don't know what truck drivers get paid. I imagine it should be pretty well though. Let's say $100,000 a year. Is that $100,000 a year job? You don't need to pay those guys anymore. You also don't need to buy expensive diesel anymore. You can charge up your semis with cheaper electric. So this becomes a revolution in transportation, which has a deflationary effect on the economy. It means that the consumer goods that you can purchase can be cheaper. It means that packages can arrive to your house quicker. It means that food can arrive to your local supermarket fresher and quicker and cheaper. It's a revolution. And it's going to take away hundreds of thousands to millions of jobs. I remember seeing a statistic somewhere that something like 10% of jobs in the United States exist around the trucking industry. And look, we're still going to need trucking engineers, at least for a while, until robots take that over. We're still going to need trucking engineers to change tires and replace batteries and all these kind of things. But a revolution is coming, and it's going to make a lot of money for early investors. Just going to say that. Robotics as well. This is going to be a $500 billion industry by 2030. That's according to the guys over at Global Data. Tesla, of course, getting into the robot game as well. I know they're pretty clunky right now, but I have faith that the world's richest man is going to get some pretty sweet robots out here for us at some point. These are early iterations of the technology, but the technology right now is here for the artificial intelligence. It's here for the self-guiding, and it might be early stages, but we're going to have these domestic robots working in factories, working in people's homes, and all this kind of stuff sooner than you realize. And Tesla's not going to be the only company doing it. Lots of companies doing that. Robotics are going to absolutely explode everything. We're going to have delivery drones and all that kind of stuff. This is the future that's coming. And again, you can invest in that future or not invest in that future. In the same way that you can look back, people who invested in the future of electric vehicles back when Tesla first came out made a killing. And of course, Tesla and other companies will go on to get even bigger still. Then we have things like new technologies, new therapies, new cures for diseases. This is something I think is a very, very interesting niche of new technology that's developing. Tony Robbins wrote a great book on this recently. Gosh, the name eludes me right now, but it's Tony Robbins' new book. I think it's called Life Force, actually. Fantastic book. He goes over and talks about all these new technologies that are coming out. And some of this stuff is like mind-blowing technologies. And in the book, he says, basically, if you can live another 10 to 20 years, your chances of living much exponentially longer are becoming much more real because the technology is moving so fast in terms of therapeutics and just curing diseases and catching diseases early and all these kind of things. It's a very exciting time, once again, to be alive. It's something that back in the 90s, we simply didn't have. I mean, yeah, great. Medicine back in the 90s is a lot better than medicine back 100 years ago. But medicine today and where medicine's going to be in 10 years is going to look nothing like medicine of the year 2000. ARC's research says that precision therapies could appreciate at a 29% annual rate. 29% annual rate. Yo, 500 billion in 2022 to 3 trillion by 2030. And what's that put it at by 2040? Not going to be that old by 2040. My investments could still be in my pocket, making me truckloads of money. I actually don't have much exposure stock-wise to therapeutics right now. I own some CRISPR stocks. I own some ARC stocks as well that are exposed to this. But I'd like to get some more. I think it's a very interesting area of investment potential. Something I've been looking at a little bit more. The robotics and all stuff, that's fun, right? But curing the world's diseases, helping people live 20, 30, 40 years more and in good health, how much would people pay for that? Crazy amounts of money. And of course, we got to talk about crypto because we want to talk about making money in the future. It's crypto, baby. We know this. We know it. Crypto is one of the fastest horses. ARK Invest coming out again with their $1.5 million Bitcoin price prediction. I love it, Kathy. Kathy, the relentless Bitcoin bull. I totally dig it. Now, how does she get to such a wild number for Bitcoin by 2030? By 2030. Well, I like their Bitcoin price target math here. So in the most bearish case, they see Bitcoin getting to $250,000 by 2030. So if my Bitcoin, which is worth $30,000 today, gets to $250,000 by 2030, I'm pretty happy with that. That's what, like an 8x or something from here. I'll take it. It's cool. That's fine. Their base case, right? The neutral case here, $680,000 Bitcoin by 2030. 2030 is not that far away, guys. It's 6 years. I mean, come on. Come on. You can't hold an investment for 6 years. Kids these days. No, look, if you need to sell your Bitcoin in the next cycle, that's fine. In fact, I'll probably take a little bit of Bitcoin profits off and then sling it back into Bitcoin back at the next market bottom. But that's a swing strategy, right? Their bull case, of course, $1.48 million for Bitcoin by 2030. Now, that assumes that we are going to see Bitcoin rise to prominence in global remittances, that we are going to see nation state treasuries adding Bitcoin, that we're going to see it as an emerging market currency. Now, that could see a role in the BRICS nations, that could see a role beyond countries like El Salvador, for example, where we're already seeing it actually starting to operate. Maybe we're going to see more prominence for Bitcoin in Africa, for example. We're going to see a rise of Bitcoin as an economic settlement network, probably at layer 2, using the Lightning Network. We're going to see more institutional investment. I mean, look at BlackRock, look at that news. We see the institutional investment narrative building up. We see the digital gold narrative building up, et cetera, corporate treasuries. So the math to get to $1.5 million Bitcoin, it's not that crazy considering there's only 2.2 million Bitcoin currently available on all exchanges for sale, and that just $70-80 billion is going to buy all of that Bitcoin, which like for BlackRock and Fidelity and Invesco and all these companies is like a drop in the bucket of money. It's not even that much. you know, family offices, Middle Eastern sheikhs, everybody and their mom is going to want some Bitcoin. And the total amount of addresses just keeps going up. Total amount of Bitcoin on exchanges just keeps going down. The technology keeps being adopted. Exciting times for cryptocurrency holders. And of course, we're going to have other things that, like Elon Musk's new X application, which he wants to make into a giant payments app. He said he thinks he can capture half of the world's financial activity, which is pretty damn bullish, Elon. I don't think they're going to let you do that. Remember, they shut down Facebook because they thought, well, Facebook's going to have too much power. So I don't know how much Elon's going to be allowed to do with his X app, but he certainly has big intentions for it. And I think crypto is going to be a part of that. Everyone, of course, speculating on Dogecoin being a part of that. I think we see Bitcoin become a part of that, probably some other cryptocurrencies, and that brings in hundreds of millions of users. And of course, if his plans for X do move forward as he wants them to, the user base of Twitter, well, the artist formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, is going to be a lot bigger than the 400 million monthly active users that it currently has. So there you go. Lots of exciting times. This is what I'm looking at. This is where a lot of my money is going. A lot of my focus is going on these kinds of investments in electric vehicle technology and medical technology and crypto technology, obviously giant crypto portfolio. But that crypto money will slowly but surely over time migrate its way over into equity stock money, tech stock. So that's where I'll be looking to put some of those profits, especially during the next bull run.